Oh boy, glad I've got that video done. It was a lot of work, but I finally made the definitive King's Quest IV video. Time to relax by the fire. Oh man, that's the stuff. Wait a minute, what's under the tree? Even more King's Quest IV details I couldn't fit in the last video or that people told me about afterwards? What? At the end of the game, you have to unlock a door to enter Lolotte's bedroom. But there's a bug with the door that I didn't know about. User Arcane Trivia let me know in my Discord. If you unlock and open the door, then leave the screen and come back, the game won't let you walk through the visibly open doorway as though the door were still there. The bug only occurs when Lolotte is still alive. I'm surprised that I never heard about this earlier. I filed a ScumVM bug report, and sluicebox, the amazing programmer that he is, fixed it within a couple days. According to his patch notes, this bug was caused by a fix for a minor bug. In early versions, the door was always closed prior to killing Lolotte, even if it had already been opened. The player just had to open it again. There are 3 things the game needs to do if the door is supposed to be open. The view cell needs to be set correctly. This makes it look like the door's open. The ignore actors flag on the door needs to be set correctly as well. In modern terms, we might call this enabling or disabling collision. It's something you can bump into. And finally, illegal bits needs to be set correctly. Illegal bits is the list of areas on the floor where Rosella can't walk. In other words, Rosella can either walk on this little yellow part of the ground in front of the door, or she can't. When the programmers fixed the original bug, they set the first 2 things correctly, but not the third. So Rosella can't walk through the door because she can't walk on the ground in front of it. This fix is in the ScumVM daily build, or if you're watching this in the future, it might be in the standard download by now. So if you want to avoid this bug that you probably weren't tripping over anyway, you'll have to download that from ScumVM's site. At one point in the game, you need to grab a feather from Genesta's island. It appears randomly, and the way I explained it in my last video was a little misleading. The feather has a 74% chance of appearing on the north side of the island, and a 26% chance of appearing on one of these screens. Some people took this to mean that there's a chance the feather won't show up anywhere, and I can see why. What I should have said is this. When you enter the island, the feather is guaranteed to show up somewhere. The dice roll simply determines where. The game gets a number between 1 and 100. If that number is less than 75, then there's another dice roll to determine which northern screen gets the feather, and it's an equal chance between them. If that first dice roll was 75 or greater, then the game chooses one of the southern screens, again, at random. Most random events in the game happen per screen, so you might think that walking back and forth would change it, but that's not how it works here. The feather's position is set when you enter the island for the first time, and it stays there forever. There's a grove of evil trees in the land of Tamir. If you get too close to them, they'll squeeze the life out of Rosella. Commenter Jay Stryker had this to say. About the evil trees. On the screen where one of them is shorter than the others, if you get grabbed by that tree, there's a unique animation in which Rosella struggles and one of her shoes falls off. Getting grabbed by any of the others just shows her immediately dying. So when I tried this out, I could sort of tell what was happening, but the animation didn't seem all that impressive. And as it turns out, there's a reason for that. A year after the initial release, Sierra released a new version that had 1 fewer 5¼ floppy disk, 9 disks to 8 disks. In order to save that space, Sierra removed detail from the backgrounds, and they completely removed the dedicated nighttime screens. Instead, they reused the daytime screens and put cyan overlays on top. But there's another way Sierra saved space that I didn't know about. Dr. Slash, the developer of King's Quest IV Retold, let me know that the 8-disc version also had fewer animation frames. Yeah, the original version of the tree animation has more frames than the newer one. I've tried my best to show that here, but I hope you can see how much clearer the old version was. There are more examples of this in the other tree animations as well. And what's really frustrating is that they could have removed other things, like all of these inaccessible nighttime screens at Genesta's castle. If you recall, when you swim into the ocean at night, the game throws Rosella so far out, there's no chance of her getting back to shore or to Genesta's island. You cannot come here at night, so there's no reason for these screens to be included on the disc. But if we're gonna find a silver lining somewhere, this does mean that Dr. Slash was able to restore these screens in King's Quest IV Retold. In his version, you can swim out to Genesta's island at night, and it looks great. One of the scariest parts of the game is the Troll Cave. If you were playing this as a kid in the 80s or 90s, all you knew was that the troll would show up occasionally to ruin your day. Better save every few seconds, just in case. How the troll actually works is really complicated, and I don't think I did it justice in my first video. So here's round 2. I've done my best to map out the cave here. These lines indicate where you can transition screens. Okay, so for the most part, when you enter a new screen, there's a 50 out of 101 chance of the troll appearing. That is, the game gets a random number between 0 and 100, and if that number is less than 50, the troll shows up. He'll chase you until he catches you, even across screens, until you leave the cave entirely. Here are the exceptions. The troll will never spawn on the screen with the exit or the screen with the chasm. It can chase you to the screen with the chasm, however, and when it does, there's a 50-50 chance of the chase stopping. Now, what you have to do on this screen is put a board over the chasm and walk across it. You automatically pick up the board once you get to the other side. So I thought, hey, what if you're being chased and you manage to make it across the chasm, pulling up the board behind you? Oh, he can cross with a... Dude, that's not fair. We picked up the board and he kept following us. Did you see that? He can apparently levitate. That sucks. Anyway, here's one more really bizarre exception to the rules. When you enter the entrance screen from the east, like on your way out, the troll will never spawn in this room, and here's why. It's complicated, and I need to thank speedrunner SantaClaus for looking into this. The troll region script has this code that does the random dice roll, which runs on every game cycle. But we don't actually want to run this all the time, only when the player gets to a new room. So the script keeps track of that with the variable local1. In room 72, if Rosella stands on this part of the floor before the edge, code is triggered to change rooms. That would be fine, except instead of calling the new room function like it's supposed to, this script sets the global room number variable directly. This bypasses the code that does all the troll spawning stuff. And that is why, when you transition from room 72 to room 71, the troll cannot appear, unless he's already chasing you. And now you know something that no one really needs to know or ever needed to know in the first place, because players just end up saving in every gosh darn room anyway. And speaking of more useless knowledge, the first releases of the game advertised a contest where you could win a trip to England. If you completed the game with all 230 points, you received a secret code. You would then mail that code into Sierra for a chance to win. The grand prize winner was Peter Stromolo, who looks pretty happy having tea with his wife at an undisclosed English castle. These people won a Tandy TL computer, and 2,000 others won software or t-shirts. The 1989 release of the game removed this code since the contest was over by that point. The very first joke I made in the video was about this hidden response.
Rub self.
Ah, you feel better now.
You can also type polish to get the same result. Some people were trying to tell me that this wasn't dirty. This is more of like, let's say you had a sore shoulder and you rub your own shoulder. To which I say, Maybe. But come on. Anyway, somebody asked about whether there were rub responses for other things, and there are for the talisman, lantern, glass eye, and scarab charm, but as the code repeatedly insists, nothing happens. You can find a few bits of early game artwork if you know where to look, and if you purchased a physical copy back in the day, you wouldn't have to look far. The back of the box shows Rosella confronting the three witches outside of the cave. This can never happen in the game, the witches are always inside. There's also this shot, which varies slightly from the final version. This advertisement, found in a few different gaming magazines, has a different early screenshot of Cupid's pool. The menu bar has some debug information. Most notably, there's a fountain that was removed in the final version. Sierra released several video catalogs, VHS tapes advertising their games, oftentimes with skits. In this early footage, there's a cliff on the first screen of the game. This was removed later. An alternate version of the box cover shows up in a few physical Sierra catalogs. It shows a confrontation between Genesta and Lolotte instead of Rosella and the unicorn. Oh, and because it's art-related, let's mention this here. The first edition of the official book of King's Quest has a long section about how King's Quest IV was coded. The author explains why these ropes are here. There is code to handle Rosella falling off the pier to the north or the south into the water. However, there is no script if Rosella should happen to fall off the pier onto the beach. So the artists added the rope fence to prevent that from happening. Think how silly she would look splashing around on dry land. At least, that's what the book says. On the other hand, Rosella can fall off the north side of the pier onto the beach, and the game seems to handle it just fine. So maybe there's a half-truth somewhere in there. One of the most infuriating parts of the game happens on this little island. You have to pick up a bridle hidden in the wreckage of this boat before you leave. Otherwise, you can't finish the game. So, where is it? Yeah, you can't see it. In early versions of the game, there were no hints for this. Later versions added an extra sentence. You see a glint coming from one of the wrecked boats on the beach. So, slightly better, but not by much, because you can't even type look at glint. You still have to type look at ground, search ground, or similar. And speaking of that bridle, which you use on the unicorn, here's the smallest, nitpickiest detail I have ever been annoyed by. After you befriend the unicorn and bridle it, you need to ride it back to Lolotte's castle. If you stand on the far side of the unicorn, away from the player, the game tells you, try the other side. Okay, must be some epic animation that they couldn't... Oh, no, Rosie just gets on top of the unicorn. And then she rides side saddle on the side I originally wanted to climb up, but the game told me I couldn't. I really don't understand this. Did she, swing her legs over the whole thing? Two versions of King's Quest IV were developed simultaneously. One for up-to-date computers, and one for older machines. This version was made in the AGI engine, and it has several differences from its SCI counterpart. The SCI version runs from 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. the next day, but the AGI version runs 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. If you look at the unicorn at the end of the game, you're told that Lolotte's goons beat the poor thing. This doesn't happen in the SCI version. Kiss unicorn. The beautiful unicorn rolls back its eyes and whinnies when you kiss its nose. It doesn't trust you anymore. Wah, wah, wah. All I ever wanted was to be trusted by the unicorn that I've betrayed. Dude. Kiss unicorn. The unicorn doesn't want you to. I like the AGI version better. Yeah, so you can't kiss it at all. In both versions, the word unicorn and horse are synonymous. Later in the game, you have to return a toy horse to a ghost. In the AGI version only, the word toy is also a synonym for horse and unicorn, meaning you can shoot toy and bridle toy, and the game knows what you mean. Both versions have swear detection. If you type a naughty word, you get a response telling you to clean up your act. I went over the swearing in detail with the SCI version. There's some overlap with the AGI swear list, but a lot of the words are unique. I like that the phrase dirty word is a dirty word. My other favorite AGI exclusive is mother trucker, but you have to put a space in between the mother and the trucker. One word won't do it. I really don't want to read through all the words again, so I put a very not safe for work link in the description if you want to know what they are. Click at your own peril. I pointed out that the game has unique kissing responses for many things. Some of you were curious about whether you could kiss Edgar. That's the little green guy with a massive crush on Rosella. You can try to kiss him, but the game doesn't have a response coded, so you just get this unfortunate generic response. Why would you want to kiss a thing like that? Poor Edgar. Can't get a break. If you try to look at Edgar, you get the generic response. You see nothing special. Which one is worse? Oh, God. And speaking of the parser, most of the parser synonyms are what you would expect. But one night, I was going through the list with my Twitch chat, and we noticed something odd. What? Hold on a second. What? Why? You can wear the crown, right? That's the idea. But Dennis, you can also wear it, you can don it. Dennis crown. Dennis is a synonym for wear. What? Crown Jonathan? Oh, did you say crown? What? Crown Jonathan? Oh, good catch. So we can do Dennis Jonathan to wear the... What the hell? Dude, this is the best day ever. Dennis Jonathan. What the hell? Dennis Jonathan was apparently a Sierra employee, but I haven't been able to find much information on him. So, Dennis, if you're out there, this parser command is dedicated to you. In my last video, I had this to say about the whale.
So this is impressive and disturbing. There's a skeleton and a bottle bobbing in the whale water. That tongue is enormous, and why does the whale have teeth?
Now, I thought it was clear from context that I meant something like, why does the whale have human teeth that look like this? You know, the teeth that were in the video? Some of you wrote in to correctly point out that many whales do in fact have teeth. One of those was speedrunner SantaClaus. It makes perfect sense for the whale to have teeth. The whale species is, to my knowledge, never identified, but as far as real-world, non-fantasy whales go, a blue whale or a humpback whale wouldn't even be physically able to swallow someone Rosella's size. The only real-world whale that plausibly could is a sperm whale, which also happens to be the largest whale with teeth. And the color and the head shape of the King's Quest IV whale also match a sperm whale well. That said, a sperm whale's teeth look nothing like those in King's Quest IV. The teeth on a sperm whale's lower jaw are much thinner, and the upper teeth are rudimentary and usually hidden. There have been extinct relatives of the modern sperm whale that did have full sets of teeth on both jaws, but again, the teeth were fairly thin with visible gaps between them. And a sperm whale's stomach looks even less like King's Quest IV, so my guess would be that we're likely dealing with some wide-toothed sperm whale relative unique to Tamir. Y'all are crazy, and I love you.